Hello guys, welcome to my podcast Thinking in Sound. Today is episode number 34 and today I'm going to discuss the theme about nasty comments or mean comments, because I'm sure anybody of you who publish your playing or your works publicly or play publicly, perform publicly, play services, I'm sure you got received probably lots of positive comments, but bad comments also. So I'm going to talk about is it possible for us to grow a thick skin without losing our sensibility and without losing who we really are, and how to react to them, and maybe you can share with me what the worst comments have you ever received and how you responded, and I can share some of my experiences. For example, if I'm looking back, of course I have received many negative comments about my tempo, about basically about tempos, about stylistic, about my unmusicality, and about all that kind of stuff. But probably the worst comment out of all was actually not about my performance and not about my thoughts about something, but it was when I was a graduate assistant at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and I was working as a teaching assistant for one of the music history professors, and I had to prepare the room for the seminar, doctoral seminar, and I was asked by my professor to move furniture around, because she wanted to have like everybody sitting in the circle, and I needed to rearrange that classroom before each of the seminar that would lasted for one semester, once per week. Of course, I did not have to do it alone, but my husband Vidas graciously helped me every time to do it. But I remember one of the time when I was before the first seminar, she told me, my professor, my history professor told me, if you won't get your DMA, you will be moving furniture for the rest of your life. And I think this was this was the nastiest comment that I have ever received, because I was completely, innocent, and really didn't deserve it. And I received my DMA. I don't have to move furniture for the rest of my life. Although I'm not sure that my DMA helped me in any way with my career as an organist, as an organ performer. But anyway, so about nasty comments. How should we react? Should we, take it really personally and cry a lot, stop doing what we are doing? Or do we don't need to pay any attention into those comments? How basically to react? So I think that the first advice would be, pause before reacting, because if you will go right away with a response to your offender, probably you will say all right things that you later might regret. Always take some deep breaths before you answering it. And if it's just a short comment and it's not so important to you, so maybe just don't pay any attention to it. But if you feel like you need to respond to it, maybe give yourself some time before doing it, because the more time will pass after receiving that negative comment, the more your response will be reasonable and thoughtful, and I think it will be better that way, because if you will do it spontaneously, you probably will see some nasty things back, and and probably this won't do any good, neither to you nor to the person who offended you. Another thing would be, to ask yourself, who is that person who makes negative comments, nasty comments about your performance? Is he, well known as a musician? Is he a good musician? Is it important really to take advice from such a person? Because what I realized that we very rarely get nasty comments from real professionals, because we are too busy with themselves, and basically we know that it's not that easy to play good, and we appreciate other musicians playing, and as well as we appreciate what we are doing. So usually we don't have either time or energy to waste it on making negative comments to you. And if it's like somebody who has not played himself well, or even don't play at all, then basically just ignore such comments, delete or block those commenters on your YouTube channel, or on Facebook, or on another social media that you are using, and forget about it. I think it's really important to separate the cruelty from the criticism. And what I mean by it, if it just says some nasty things like, oh, it's too slow, you are so unmusical, you never will play well, and things like this, then just ignore comments like this, because obviously we are not worth your time and your energy and your health. So, but if it's like sort of that criticism is well put together, and it gives you some sort of insight and some ideas and maybe some advice how to improve it, you might want to take it into consideration. Although, it's just too bad that these days people don't criticize in order to help you. Like sometimes when I listen to the concert of the students, of my students, or some students that I know well, and sometimes I want to give them some advices, not to criticize them, but to help them to improve. And I think it's good. And what I miss about myself, playing, I would like to receive some well-placed, criticism, some really helpful advices for my playing, maybe for my registration, interpretation, and that kind of stuff. That might be useful, helpful, which I would really take into consideration. So, but it's just too bad that people rarely criticize with integrity. Most often we just criticize you, wanting to make you feel bad, and probably with making you feel bad we try to feel better themselves. Okay, now let me just quickly sip a cup of water, which is provided in a beautiful mug of Secrets of Organ Playing. By the way, while drinking water, I will remind you that Vidas and I, we run the Total Organist program. So if you want to become better in whatever you are trying to get better in, either improvising or sight reading or playing a repertoire, you might want to look at our Total Organist program. And I will provide the link to that program at the end of this video, so you can check it for yourself. Okay, now let's go back on track and to see what we do have to discuss. So Is it always important to reply to a comment? Well, I would say no, because if it's really nasty and it hurts you and it does not offer any substantial help to to your problem, to your playing, so simply ignore it. If you cannot ignore it, then you might, in that case, I would just reply to a person who just offended me. Okay, I would dearly love to hear how you play this, piece. Or something like, I have never heard you play this piece before. So maybe you could provide me with a link to, to your video and I could learn from you. Oh no, sometimes I just say, go and yourself. So, and sometimes I just delete the comment and block that person, and that's it. I have done that in the past quite a lot. And it's not that I don't accept criticism. I simply don't accept nasty comments. I don't want them to, to shape whatever I am and, to basically make me, suffer and make my blood pressure rise. Okay, so another thing is that very often when we receive a nasty comment or some criticism, we try to explain ourselves. And that's a really, bad way, because, well, what could you say for that? Oh, I'm sorry, I probably did not do a good job in that video, and I did not feel good, my head was hurting, or things like this. You can make up the stories, but really you don't have to do it. You know what you are doing as a person, and you really don't have to explain yourself, especially to somebody who just want to hurt you and to offend you. So I would say never, you don't have to explain yourself to anybody, unless you of course want to, but explaining yourself will make you to look guilty, and you are not guilty. You just have your own opinion about things you are doing, your own interpretation, your own playing style, and who cares if we don't want to listen to how you play, or we don't like it. We might find somebody else to criticize and to be to be nasty about. So and another thing, growing up that thick skin, as I talked at the beginning of this podcast, doesn't make you, less sensible. Basically, I think sometimes, that thick skin and even cynicism to some degree shows that you are really vulnerable, and it's okay, because as musicians, I think we need to be at least a little bit emotional, and sensible. And that way, I think we can, to make music more alive and, to feel our music more. But just, don't take that personally. Don't feel that guilt, before anybody. And that won't help you, to become a better musician. Just, take a brief breath, either smile or, say some bad words, and that's it. And just forget about it, and don't replay that nasty comment into your head over and over again, because that might really hurt you, and you might lose the confidence in yourself, and you don't want that. So basically just smile, and forget about it. As people say, shit happens. So whatever, just have your goal, and reach for your goal, and go forward. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. I really appreciate that, and thank you for your support, especially Sean Pierre is my constant supporter via PayPal, so I appreciate his donations very much. And thank you each and every one of you who listen to my podcast and to my organ playing videos, and I will see you next time, next week. Thank you and bye bye.